All right. Welcome everybody. Glad to see all of you here. Cameras on, cameras off, but hopefully you can be fully engaged for the next 30 minutes or so. You've got an amazing special exclusive webinar for one of our financial industry leaders. I'm Dr. Ethan Huynh. Welcome again. Whoever invited you, thank them because you're going to learn quite a bit tonight. You were obviously curious. Those questions probably hit you. But a little bit myself, like I mentioned, I'm a pharmacist, went through a lot of schooling, a lot of education. And all throughout my years, I was blessed to eventually be mentored by some of the leaders that are on this call today as well, to actually understand what it takes to be financially better off, right? We're always looking for ways to how do we maximize our wealth? How do we accumulate? How do we be successful? How do we make smart decisions? And I thought I could do that all by myself. I thought, with the power of Google and the schools of internet that I would be able to figure that out all by myself. But the reality is there's too much information, not enough clarity, not enough guidance. You need an expert to help guide you. And hopefully that's what you're going to get here tonight. So again, I went through a lot of schooling, had the privilege to be able to sit down with a financial advisor to really share some of the simple facts, some of the fundamentals for me to understand what it takes, what I need to learn. And the beauty of it is this, you're either growing or dying. You're never ever going to learn it all. It's a continuous daily thing. If you're watching the news and you're following the stock market, it's changing every day, right? You can either respond, react out of fear, or you either have a strategy, a plan. And hopefully you're going to find someone, whoever invited you, to be able to book an appointment right away, right? So after this seminar, whatever hits you, take some notes, whatever questions or answers you may have, put that down and reconnect with the person that invited you, because that's key. You want to do this as soon as possible because you never know what the next thing that you're going to be able to take advantage of or you're just going to miss. So that's what I learned through all the years of education and now being in the financial service industry. I was able to help a lot of people, be able to take these moments, these key moments like tonight. You guys made an effort to come up and show up tonight to make something different, to change your life. So with that, without further ado, I want to introduce you to our main speaker. This gentleman I trust, I've been mentored by, an amazing leader, but best of all, someone that knows what's really happening out there financially. He's an industry expert and he shares it with the team that I'm a part of. We have a great firm with a bunch of other experts, but tonight he's going to be able to give you some of the hacks, right? The financial hacks. It's not going to answer every question out there, but hopefully it's going to intrigue you, open your mind to really take the time to sit down and hopefully make a strategy, a plan, because we're coming up towards 2023. I hope you're going to have an amazing new year. So with that, without further ado, let me welcome you to Mr. Jeff Brookshire. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Ethan. I really appreciate the great introduction and also the really good points that you made. So thank you so much for doing that. Also, for those of you that are tuning in right now, thank you for spending your time on a Sunday evening with us. It's not going to be very long. We've only slotted this for 2.5 hours, so just buckle in and just joking. Of course, it's going to be about 20 minutes of just value-added content. We're going to have a casual conversation that's sorely needed in today's world. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. It's interesting. We're talking about financial hacks, but it's interesting right now that so many people are suffering financially. It's absolutely crazy what's going on right now. Inflation is the highest it's been in 40 years. People paying more for gas, more for groceries. People are leaving, one state to another state just to get a cheaper cost of living. It's really crazy what's going on. And there's not a lot of guidance out there. And like Ethan mentioned, it's not like you can just Google something and find the answer, right? It's not like you can just ask a person at work and they can get the answer, or, you can find it on the news. So one of the things we decided to do was to put on this little webinar and just kind of shine a light on some issues in an educational format. And so you'll have a chance at the end, if you find something that comes across today and you're like, wow, I'd like to learn more about that, you'll have the opportunity. And the easiest way will be you can reach out to the person who invited you here today, and they can set up time for you to learn more about the thing that you're most interested in. But we're going to have some fun. We're going to provide lots of value. And before I get started with the slides, I just wanted to talk to you about, this isn't a hack, but it is something that most people don't think about. It's the enemies of wealth. There are a few very powerful enemies of wealth that most people don't ever even think about. Everyone thinks about how much money am I making? right? And that's relevant, but it's not as much as important as how much money you're keeping and how much money you're saving and how much money you're growing and how much money you're paying in taxes and so on and so forth. So here are a couple of the enemies of wealth that are just kind of good to be aware of. Number one enemy of wealth is inflation. We're seeing it right now. We're seeing it right now. We were in Arizona earlier today. We're back in California now. And just the price in gas alone was just like, it's crazy to me. And I think about what we paid, a year ago, we were paying half of this in gas. So when things become much more expensive, that's more of your money coming out. So inflation is one of those things that you have to be able to fight because it's an enemy of wealth. The other one is taxes. Anyone in the room like taxes? Like really look forward to paying taxes? Want them to go higher? Right? Nobody likes taxes, right? Because taxes is basically going, hey, I earned this money, but I don't get to keep it all. Right? And it's one of those things. And we're going to talk about tools to fight both of these today. The other enemy of wealth, probably worse than the first two, is procrastination. Most people just think, well, later when I'm making a bunch of money, later when this is happening, later, like there's never a later, right? Everything in the financial world, and this is an early hack, right? Everything in the financial world is just easier when you start sooner. So that's one of the things. And then the other piece we talked about just a little bit is misinformation. It's hard to get, impartial information where someone's not trying to sell you something, or it's a bias, or it's an opinion, right? Or even sometimes people don't even know the right question to ask. And then, and last but not least, we're seeing this right now, market loss. We call it gravity, right? What goes up must come down eventually. So the market's coming down, and it's come down all year, and it's probably going to get a little bit worse. And it's just one of those things we have to deal with. And so these are some of the enemies of wealth. It's just kind of good to be aware of, because if you're aware of them, you can put things in place to kind of mitigate them. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and start with the slides. Financial hacks people wish they knew. All right, so let's go ahead with the next slide. So here's the part where I strongly encourage you to kind of take just a minute, grab a pen and paper, take some notes. Obviously, you don't have to. You can do whatever you like, but take some notes. One of the things that we found is when you listen to something and then you take the time to write down the notes, it actually passes through a second stage of learning, and their attention's much, much higher. And so, that's why people take notes in class. And it's just good to take notes. It's just one of those things that, very successful people are always taking notes, always note taking. And so also at the same time, think about who else might gain value from this. Maybe you're thinking about yourself, and then you hear something and you go, oh my God, I've got to talk to my brother about this. I've got to talk to my friend at work. I've got to talk to, write their name down, because, one of the things about knowledge is sharing knowledge is one of the great pleasures in life, right? And then, anyway, that was the last part, sharing knowledge. So let's go ahead and get started. Next slide. All right. This is a truth that we have to talk about before we talk about some of the hacks. There's no such thing as this tool's the best tool to build wealth, or this tool's the best tool to save money, right? There are no bad tools out there. You've got real estate, you've got the banks, you've got the stock market, you've got the insurance industry. Those are all valid tools. There's no such thing as one's better than the other, because they're all completely different. And that's the first thing. If you really want to blossom in the financial world and have all the tools at your beck and call, the best way to do that is kind of know that all the tools are different, right? You don't always need a hammer. Sometimes you need a screwdriver, and it's just they're designed for different things. So let's go ahead on the next slide, please. Okay, everything we're going to show you is heavily regulated. It's been out for a long time, big companies, federal oversight, so they're all heavily regulated, and they're used by the wealthy and by the well-informed. And our hope is tonight we can do some more on the well-informed part. Next slide, please. Okay, here's the first one. This is from a couple of weeks ago. Stock market losses wipe out $9 trillion of Americans' wealth. This is not maybe it's going to happen. This already happened. And so it's just one of those things we have to be aware of. It's funny because even this past week, I talked to people and I said, hey, I have a question. How's your 401k doing? And they're like, you know what? I haven't checked. Like, wow, like this is, it's like you go to bed at night and you go, did I lock the front door? It's worth taking time to go check to make sure the front door is locked. This is the time checking the market and checking your pension plans and your IRAs and your 401ks is very, very important because everyone's lost money. Everyone's lost money. It's just one of these things that's a fact. So the next slide, please. So this came out in Forbes just a few days ago, this past week. And so it says, this is from Morgan Stanley. So this was featured in Forbes and quoting Morgan Stanley. So two of the biggest names in finance, stock market poised for bigger losses as the economy enters danger zone. So one of the ways you can always make sure that you fare better than most other people is kind of being aware of what time it is. And so there's a lot. So the people around us may not be worried that there's another shoe that's going to drop. It's going to affect the market. But most of the people in the financial industry across the board are aware of that because of inflation, because of rising interest rates, because of the war in the Ukraine, because of the fluctuating dollar. There's a lot of instability, and it's unfortunately probably going to get worse before it gets better. That's not a prediction. It's just what we're kind of looking at. So I wanted to kind of pre-frame that because now we're going to talk about our first hack on the next page. So here's the question. I get to ask this question all the time, say, well, why do some people lose money when the market's down? Or some people not lose money when the market's down? How are some people losing a lot of their retirement and other people are just okay, yet their money is still growing? So let's go to the next slide. Hack number one, we call them indexed accounts. So there are actually three different kinds of accounts that people use to put their money in. And so if we look at the next slide, we get a little graphic of it. So these are options. So the first is fixed. So kind of everyone knows like a CD, right? You put your money in a CD at the bank, they have 6 months or 12 months or whatever it is, they give you 1%, right? That's fixed. They go, hey, you're gonna get 1% no matter what. It's not gonna go higher, it's not gonna go lower, and that's a fixed account. And most people know about these types of fixed accounts. There are other tools other than CDs that do this, but typically a fixed account is going to give you a very small rate of return. Very small rate of return. 1, maybe 2%. Then you've got the variable accounts, right? Variable accounts, everyone knows. These are 401ks, these are mutual funds, these are IRAs, Roth IRAs, SEP IRAs, pension plans. Those are all variable. And simply, of course, variable just means it varies, right? Right? Is the market good? Is the market bad? I don't know. It varies, right? It varies, a lot. And right now it's varying in a direction we don't like. So it's variable. Sometimes good, sometimes it's bad. And so that's what everyone has. Most people have most of their money in this sector because they're using a 401k or they're using a pension plan or they're using an IRA. And so they're using the tool that they know, right? So these are the two tools. Well, there's a third tool. It's called an indexed tool. Imagine a tool that is indexed to the market, but not tied to the market. So it can go up when the market's good, but doesn't go down when the market's bad. So if you made $100, you keep the $100, right? Not give it back and so on and so forth. So imagine if everyone in a 401k could look at their statement from what happened since the beginning of the year, since January, and if they could snap their fingers and make it go back to where it was in January, would they do it? Oh, yes, they would, right? They've all lost 20, 25, sometimes 30%, right? So someone's got 100,000, they're down to 80,000. Someone's got $1 million, they're down to 800,000. They lost $200,000. If they could go, hey, if I knew at the beginning of this year the market was going to go down and I could freeze my account, would I do it? Of course you'd do it, because then you get to keep the money you've got. But what if I could unfreeze my account when the market's good? When the market's making 8% gains, 10% gains, then I could grow with it. That's what an indexed account is. So this is one of those hacks. A lot of people just simply don't know about indexed accounts. Why? Well, sometimes, for example, an employer, a 401k or pension plan, doesn't offer indexed accounts. So it's not available through an employer. If you go to the bank does securities, right? Stuff that's tied to the stock market, doesn't offer indexed accounts. They're out there, right? And so part of what we wanted to do today is kind of shine a light on it and say, hey, you know what? You don't have to worry about the market going down, but you can just rejoice when the market goes up. So these are indexed accounts. One of the things that's a hack, trust me, I hear all the time, and these things have been around for a long, long time, but they've been adjusted for today's time and environment. So let's go to the next page, please. All right, hack number 2. So one of the things about indexed accounts, of the old indexed accounts from a couple of years ago, they go, hey, your account's completely safe, but we're going to put a cap on your growth, meaning there might be an 8% cap. So you don't ever lose money, but the most you make is 8%, or it's a 10% cap, right? Now, one of the things that happened very, very recently, literally within the last year and a half, is they started coming out with uncapped fixed indexed accounts. What does that mean? It means accounts that don't ever go down, but can participate with no limit in 20, 30% gains when the market's good. Pretty interesting, right? So that's uncapped fixed indexed accounts. It's a relatively new reimagining of an old tool that's very effective. So that's hack number 2. Next slide, please. Hack number 3. Not everyone knows this. Some people do, some people don't. Most 401ks can be rolled over cost-free if you're over the age of 59 and a half. So for example, if you work at Kaiser, and you're 60 years old, but you're not going to retire for a couple of years, and you're just watching your 401k get smaller and smaller and smaller, and you go, man, I don't know what I can do about it. Well, one of the things you can do is you can, at no cost, move it into something that's protected and can still grow while you're still working, as long as you're over the age of 59 and a half. So I know that's true for Kaiser, it's true for Target Corporation, I know it's true for IBM, it's true for most large corporations and hospitals in America. So that's cool. And if you're a business owner and you're overseeing your own 401ks, that's also true there. In fact, business owners can actually kind of put away the 59 and a half rule. They can actually authorize rollovers below the age of 59 and a half. So that's something that a lot of people don't know. A lot of people are like, well, yeah, I'm losing money in my 401k, but what choice do I have? Well, here's a hack. If you're over 59 and a half, you do have a choice in most cases. Next slide, please. So you can roll over a 401k to an IRA. When you do that, not only does it not cost any money, and by the way, this is, regardless of where you move it, what company, what product, it doesn't cost anything. It also, there's no taxes because you're taking it from a tax protected vehicle, putting it into another tax protected vehicle. So as long as you're doing that, you're not paying taxes on the money either. So these are just pretty important things that a lot of people just don't know. We wanted to share them with you. Next slide, please. Hack number 4. This is a good one. Did you know pension plans, many pension plans can be rolled over? Almost every IRA can be rolled over, and most annuities can be rolled over. They're not in a penalty period, free of cost. So not just 401ks or 403bs or TSP accounts, anything with 3 letters, 3 numbers, it's a retirement account. They all kind of function the same. But most retirement plans can be moved. So for example, we work with a lot of nurses and doctors at Kaiser, so I know Kaiser really, really well. Kaiser, when they retire, they can actually move their pension plan. Why would they want to move their pension plan? Good question. Next slide, please. This was a recent article from July. Pension underfunded liabilities rising with market volatility. There are a lot of pension funds, check this out, that are actually borrowing money to pay out their existing pensioners. The average pension in America is underfunded by 20 to 30%, and it's getting worse. So, and there's another, I didn't put this in my notes, but I'm going to add it there as a freebie. You guys know how pension works, right? Pension is like Social Security. It's like, hey, they're going to pay me a lump sum of or a monthly amount of money for the rest of my life. That's great. But what if you retire and you live 2 years and then you die? What happens then? Well, then what happens is the spouse will get half and it varies by company, but generally half. And then what happens when the spouse dies? Generally speaking, the pension goes back to the pension fund, not to the family. So one of the things about these rollovers is you can take a pension that has limited benefit once the pensioner dies and roll it to where 100% of the money can go to the family no matter what. I should have added that as a hack, but it's a freebie. Okay, next page. Trust me, this is something a lot of pensioners wish that they'd known. Hack number 5. You can actually take money out of most annuities after being in it only 1 year. That's a little known fact. If we go to the next slide, you'll see that this is one of the most misunderstood words in the financial industry, annuities. By the way, there are dozens of different types of annuities. But fixed index annuities, a lot of times you go, oh, I can't touch my money for 10 years. Not true, right? My family, it doesn't grow. Not true, especially with these new uncapped strategies. So there are a lot of things that people say about annuities that just might have been true 20 years ago for variable annuities, but not true for fixed annuities and other stuff. So there are lots and lots and lots of myths, right? So here's kind of how I would look at the financial information you find on the internet. The stuff that's free and true is old, and everything else is sales and opinions. So it's always good to kind of keep up to date. So these are some of the best tools right now to help people protect their retirement accounts that I've seen. And by the way, we use all the tools that are out there. Anyway, next slide, please. The next slide, remember, there's no such thing as a bad tool. They all just do what they do. You can use both. I know a lot of people that have money in the market and have money out of the market. Both are growing. One's safe, one's not as safe. But you can do both. It's one of these things where there are a lot of tools out there. When you go to the grocery store, you don't have to just buy milk. You can buy milk and bread. So just wanted to bring that point up. All right, next hack, please. Diversification. So one of the things we've been kind of taught is that you've got stocks and you've got bonds and you've got cash. So cash is the money in the bank, and inside of your 401k, you have some money in stocks and you have some money in bonds. And that's what a lot of people will call diversification. But notice there's things in there called alternatives, much like the indexed annuities we spoke about, right? So just by the way, the bond market is down a lot this year, and the stock market's down a lot this year. And so when you're jumping from stocks into bonds, it's kind of like you're jumping out of the frying pan into the fire, right? And back and forth, and there's no safe haven. So just want to let everybody know, those aren't the only two options that are out there. And that's part of education. Just go, wow, I'd like to learn more about some of these other options. And by the way, we participate in all sides of the financial we do stock market, we do index news. We have hundreds and hundreds of agents in our firm, but we just wanted to provide tonight as an educational, just an educational moment to kind of share the information, because we believe in no family left behind. Why shouldn't everybody have the information that the wealthy and the well-informed do? So next slide, please. Hidden secret. Okay, another very misunderstood word, life insurance. Now, most people, and by the way, me too, before I got into the financial industry, most people think life insurance is I die, my family gets money. Okay, that's true. But look at the next slide. There are 30 different uses for life insurance. 30. Personal needs. There's business continuation needs. So business owners, there are lots of incredible things that can be done with life insurance that are not just I die, my family gets money. On a personal side, there's a lot that can be done in taxes, in protecting against illness, so on and so forth. And in state and charitable needs, oh my God, there's so much, just 30. I'm not going to go through all 30, right? Because that would take another hour. But I just want to let you know there's a lot of stuff in there. So let's talk about the next slide. I'm going to pinpoint some of the cool things. Now let's say that you go, wow, 30 things that life insurance can do. But Jeff, I've already got a life insurance policy. I've got this company and I've had them for years and da 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 da. They're a big company and they're great and they do all these things. That's great. But did you know, even if you had a life insurance policy for a long period of time, you can still sometimes save money on life insurance? Would you like to know how? Who would like to save some money? So I'm gonna give you a real quick example. We've got a business owner, very successful business owner in LA that was paying a lot of money, paying more for, anyway, we saved this person $7,000 a month and gave them the same amount of protection they had before and added about $3 million to their retirement account that they didn't have before. And that had some extra protection they didn't have before, just by shopping around. And so you might go, well, wait a minute, how is that possible? Well, let me show you. Next slide. You want to look at comparison illustrations and blends. So one of the secrets in the financial industry, or in the life insurance industry, is there was a regulation passed in 2015 called AG 49. And then again, was passed a year ago, a little bit over a year ago, called AG 49A. What it did, it forced all life insurance companies to use the same standards for running their illustrations. What does that mean? It means if you really want to compare something, all you have to do is look at the numbers. You can compare company A and company B in their illustrations. Neither company can now play around with their illustrations. So you can compare apples to oranges. And you go, wow, I save 50% and I get the same benefit. Wow, I'm gonna go with this company. And anyway, that's one thing, is comparison illustrations. It's the easiest way to compare financial tools. Because sometimes in the financial industry, it's very complicated because it's what people say and you focus on what people say, but the numbers are pretty clear. Now I'm going to show blends. If there's people in the industry, that were on this call, they might be upset that I show this, but this is an inside secret. You guys ready for it? Here you go. So this is a great company, by the way. And if you look under where it says total face amount, the second line, it's a $500,000 life insurance policy, a permanent one that makes money, right? That they can actually use to supplement retirement, all that great stuff while they're alive. And if you look at the basic coverage, it says 50%, and ARTR coverage is 50%. This is what we call a 50-50 blend. By the way, I guarantee you're not going to see another financial webinar that's showing you this stuff, but I'm going to show it to you for a reason. If you look at the bottom that's circled, you see the target premium, it's $6,990. What that means is this person, their policy premium, they're paying $1,000 a month. I use this illustration for easy math. So they're paying $12,000 a year, but only $6,990 of that's going for the regular cost of the life insurance. Target premium is what insurance agents get paid on. Now, remember that number, 6,990. Now look at the next slide. This is the same company. But if you look up where it says basic coverage, we put it on 100%, not a 50-50 blend. Look at the number at target premium now. It's over $13,960. What just happened? Well, you now have two illustrations for the same life insurance company. Same company, same death benefit. One cost is double the other. This is one of the ways. So depending on, there are some companies, they don't ever run anything on a 50-50 blend. So that's one of the ways we help this business owner. The company he was using, they ran everything on 100%. So we ran a comparison on a 50-50 blend. We cut his cost in half and actually lowered the cost and allowed him to make more money. So it doesn't matter necessarily what company it is and what the size of the policy is. A lot of it is how it was designed. And by the way, just to be fair, a lot of companies don't ever teach this. And a lot of companies run everything at 100%. So, just to let you know that it's always worthwhile to shop around a little bit, especially if you can save money or make money. All right, next slide. Hack number 8. By the way, there's some great companies out there that are what we call captive companies, where somebody works for a company. And I'm not going to name their names, right? But you've got a person who works for one company. Guess what products that person is selling? They're selling that company. They're not selling any other company. So imagine, it's kind of like going to a grocery store and there's only one product on the shelf, right? It's kind of hard to compare benefits and shop around and get a change in cost or, you know, enhanced benefits if you're only looking in one place, right? By the way, it doesn't mean that those solutions aren't great solutions, right? It just means that, you know, if you went to a grocery store, you had 2 grocery stores. The grocery store on one side of the street has a full, you know, 30 aisles of food and a bunch of different companies. And the other one only carries one product. Which grocery store are you going to shop at, right? So it's one of those things that just to think about. It doesn't necessarily mean anything one way or another. So let's go to the next slide, please. The reason I brought that up is because if you look at the insurance industry, and by the way, this is true in the security side too, you've got 3 types of agents. You've got what we call captive agents, where they work for one company and their job is to sell product for that one company. And then you've got independent agents who work on their own. They're not backed by a company, but they have 4 or 5 companies that they work with. And then you have brokers who are independent, but because of their size, work with lots and lots of companies, right? And so just so you know, and all disclosure, that's where we come from. We're brokers, right? We're brokers. We have access to a lot of different things. Because if I didn't have access to a lot of different things, I wouldn't see how the different things work. So this is where a lot of this information is coming from. Anyway, next slide, please. Unforeseen illness. Wait a minute, Jeff, how is that a hack? I thought I was going to find a secret for money. Yeah, here's one of the secrets. Most people, when they plan for retirement, do not plan on getting sick. Well, how many people get sick, Jeff? Well, let's look at the next slide. 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10 people in America end up getting a chronic illness later in life. It could be heart disease, cancer, chronic lung disease, stroke, Alzheimer's, diabetes, chronic kidney issue, and on and on. The part I wanted to show you is this: the leading causes of death and disability. By the way, chronic disease is the #1 cause by a mile of disability. These are people that didn't die. They just they're disabled. They can't work anymore because of a disease. What happens if that happens to some? You probably think about it. If you think about it, you probably know someone like, oh, this person got a stroke, now they can't work. This person has cancer now. It seriously impacted their ability to make money. You know, that sort of thing. It costs the nation $3.5 trillion in annual healthcare costs. So imagine you have someone going, okay, I know I need $1 million for retirement. I need $1.5 million for retirement, but they don't plan on spending $200,000 or $300,000 or $400,000 for chronic illness related. Now, not here to scare you. We're here to show you a hack. Let's look at the next slide, please. Here's the hack. How can I get, I see the value now of protecting myself in case I get sick. I know that putting someone in a care facility is extremely expensive, right? A nursing home could be $10,000 a month, right? I know it's very expensive. Having a caregiver come to the house, it can be very expensive. How are we going to pay for that? Well, long-term care and living benefits can help pay for that. But the question is, how can I get long-term care or living benefits, but get it to pay for itself? You guys want to see that? Let's take a look at the next slide. So what a lot of the modern insurance companies have done, right, especially the non-captive ones, or non-captive insurance companies, they've added living benefits. Now, sometimes you hear people talk about living benefits, and they're just talking about terminal illness and some other things. But I'm talking about specifically chronic illness and critical illness. There are a lot of life insurance companies that offer these for free or at very little cost. So if you never end up using them, you're still going to be able to get money back. And a lot of these policies will pay for themselves over the course of 12 to 15 years. So you go, if I need it, I got it. If I don't need it, I made enough money back to pay for the money I put into it. So it doesn't cost anything. Interesting, right? All right, next slide, please. Taxes, we talked about earlier, one of the number one enemy of wealth. Let's look at the next slide and talk specifically about taxes. Hack number 10. You know you can pick your taxes. Did you know that? Most people feel like taxes are something they can't control. They work really hard, they go to work, come home, pay the bills, put food on the table, try to prepare for retirement, all that other stuff. And at the end of the day, they go to their tax person and go, well, what do I owe? Well, you can pick your taxes. What do I mean by that? Let's show the next slide. How money gets taxed. 3 ways. There's tax now. This we know, right? We get a paycheck, it's already been taxed, right? We have savings account, it gets taxed right now. And then there's tax later. We know this pretty well too. These are 401ks, these are IRAs, these are fixed annuities, these are savings bonds. They don't get taxed today, but later when you take money out, you get taxed on everything, right? You don't get taxed on just the money you put in. You also get taxed on the money you put in plus all the growth you had in your money, right? These two are where most people have their tax money. However, there's a third category. We call it tax advantaged, or I like to say better, tax free, right? These are Roth IRAs, right? Everyone loves Roth IRAs. Like, wow, they're great. You don't have to pay taxes when you retire. That's true. And cash value accumulation in an insurance policy. That's also a way that you can build money, use it for retirement, not pay taxes on gains if you do it right. Well, okay, that's good. How do I tell the difference between a Roth IRA and a cash value life insurance policy? Well, the next slide will show you. Kind of random side by side. So on a Roth IRA, for the most part, I mean, you can do them that don't have market exposure, but most of them are exposed to the stock market, right? So most Roth IRAs can lose money. And so most people who have a Roth IRA right now lost money this year because it's exposed to market risk. There are also contribution limits. There's a limit. You can't put $10,000 into a Roth IRA. Why? Because the limit's just a little bit over $6,000, right? So there's a contribution limit to how much you can put into a Roth. There's also principal risk exposure. What does that mean? Well, you can lose the money you put into it, right? You could put $6,000 into a Roth and lose $6,000. That's entirely possible, right? What about annual income limits? Well, there are a lot of people that have pretty decent incomes and they can't even qualify for a Roth. So there are income limits from the person who can qualify for a Roth, and there are early withdrawal penalties, meaning you can't take your money out before age 59 and a half without penalties. Federal penalties, state penalties, et cetera, et cetera. Well, let's compare that to life insurance. The IUL is a type of life insurance, a newer type of life insurance. Well, it has market protection, meaning it's got built-in protection where it has that indexed floor where it can't lose money. That's one thing. So you don't have to worry about, I'm going to lose 20% in my life insurance. What else? No contribution limits. So if someone wants to have a policy where they can dump in $50,000 a year, you can actually design a life insurance policy where they can dump in $50,000 a year. Principal protection, right? You're protecting the principal you put into it. And check this out, favorable access to cash value. Money you don't have to wait until you're 59 and a half to touch. Because one thing I know about money is some years are good, some years are bad. For everybody, it just goes like this. Well, having access to money before retirement is sometimes very beneficial for all these changing times that we're in. And then tax-free survivor benefit. So both great tools, right? It's just a matter of using the right tool in the right place. But these are two tools everyone should be aware of. Let's look at the next slide. These are some serious hacks, guys. So I wanted to show you what one of these kind of looks like, right? So what we have here is we took the years from 1997 to 2012 to give a big section. And we wanted to look at the S&P 500 and look at a 401k or an IRA that's tied to the S&P 500. And so that's the blue side, right? And so you see first year is up 26%. Awesome. Woohoo, 26%. The next year is up 18%. Woohoo, up 18%. Loving it, right? Then you hit 2000, it's down 12%. Not so happy, right? Then the next year, down 8%. Then the next year, down 24%. Wow. So now it's just, and then boom, up 24%. Oh, it's good. We're making money again. And so you see at the end of that time, that person put in $100,000 and they made $135,000 from their $100,000. Not bad. I mean, it grew, right? Now, if you look at the tax rate at the bottom, we assumed a 30% tax rate. So they're paying 30% in taxes that are really pulling out 95,000. Because in a 401k, you have to pay taxes on everything you pull out. So you put in 100, made 135, end up with 95. That's our friend, the tax man. Now, on the right side, you've got an index universal life, same period of time, same amount of money, 100,000, but it's an index. Now, this particular index has a floor of 0 and a cap of 12. Can't make more than 12, but can't make less than 0. So now you see the first year, it didn't make 26, it only made 12. It didn't make 18, it only made 12. But those 3 years it was down, it's not 3, this is 3, okay. 3 years it was down, 0, 0, 0. It didn't lose any money. We call it the power of 0. So that 125,000 they'd accumulated, still 125,000 after all those down years, right? And then instead of being up 24% in year 2003, now it's up 12%. Now look at the bottom, $267,000 because it did not participate in any market loss. It didn't participate in all the gain, but participated in some of it. Now, look at the bottom, no taxes. So in this case, this is side by side, same person, same age, same money going in, same period of time. One person put in 100, the other person put in 100. So the first year, the person on the blue side in a 401k is going, I made 26%, I'm doing great, right? And they're like, hey, your index universal life didn't make as much. That's right. But if you look at the bottom result, look at the difference between 95,000 and 267,000. See, we're caught up in a society where it's always like the stock market's up 20% and we're caught on this number. The reality is most people don't make 20% when the market's up 20%. But they almost always lose 20% when the market's down 20%. There are lots of reasons for that. I'm not going to, that'll be a whole nother webinar. But anyway, I wanted to show you potentially some of the power. Now, is this right for everybody? No. In fact, are they both great tools? Yes. It's just a matter of knowing them and using them in conjunction even. So next slide, please. Hack number 11, this is a bonus. This is a bonus. I told you 10 hacks. I like to under promise, over deliver. This is hack number 11, a bonus. You can evaluate all the new tools in the industry for free. For free. You can literally, so the person invited you here today, one of the things we've decided to do as a firm is we're going to provide free financial education. We're not going to charge 10 grand a pop like a lot of other financial organizations will do just to run the information and give you recommendations. We're going to do it 100% for free. And we'll show you all the new tools that are relevant to you for free and with illustrations that kind of show you what they would look like numerically. So you can kind of, numbers are immutable. You can just kind of go, how does this compare to what I currently have? And then that way you've got education, knowledge, and black and white, not words, but numbers you can compare side by side. That is a hack. Anytime I want to compare like sometimes I'll have somebody come into the office, it'll be a new company and they'll talk about this great product. And they go, this is amazing. And it does everything like except sliced bread. And they'll go, oh my God, it's so great. And you walk out of there and you go, wow, that sounds amazing. The first thing I always do is go, let's run the numbers. Because words can be, I'm not saying manipulated, but words can be, people talk about the nice things, I like numbers. Go, hey, let's see how this does. These sound great. How do these numbers compare to this? How does this compare to my 401k? How does this life insurance policy compare to this life insurance policy? And you compare numbers that are all heavily regulated. And then that's how you actually can see if it's any value. By the way, you might have the best of everything that's out there. That's great. One of the things that I recommend strongly in the financial world, especially since all the changing in inflation and interest rates and so on and so forth, is constant reevaluation. And if you can get a reevaluation for free, oh my God, that's a plus. Next slide, please. Hack number 12, another bonus. You can actually make money in the financial industry as a referral partner. What? I can make money? Yes. Okay, next slide, please. If that's tantalizing, just reach out to the person you talk to. Okay, now let's talk about business owners. Now, there are some very significant hacks for business owners that are completely different than all the other ones we just talked about. One of them is premium financing. Successful business owner can actually borrow money to fund programs that pays for themselves, and they pay back the loans and have incredible profit and tax. In fact, you can use these types of tools to save 20 to 40% taxes. And I mean, business owners making over $200,000-300,000 a year that are getting killed in tax, that are paying $50,000 in taxes, $200,000 in taxes, $500,000 in taxes. There are programs where they can set these programs up where they don't have to pay any of that in taxes. And instead, that money goes to fund programs which fund their retirement and all those great things. Now, how do we do this? Well, we work with a large team of people and professionals that have access to all these incredible tools. So when you have a business owner that's involved, it's much more sophisticated, but we have a big team of professionals that help us to figure out, hey, what can we do to save this person money in taxes? There's key person insurance. How do I protect my business against losing someone that's very important to the business and pay for it and keep that person on the company at the same time? Exit strategies. A lot of business owners think about how much money we make, how much money we spend, how much profit we make, but they don't think about how do we get out of the business. What about when it's time to retire? What about if we lose one of the business partners, right? There's some very, very inexpensive things you can do in the business to protect yourself against that. How about non-asset classes? Because you know what, we live in a sue-happy society. Especially if you're a business owner, you've got people say, hey, this person owes me this and they owe me that, and you've got vendors coming out of the woodwork when somebody passes away. How do I generate wealth that's not touchable by anybody? That's a non-asset class. Well, there are ways. And again, we mentioned we have a team of experts. So what I can tell you is there are generally 2 or 3 things with business owners that they're unaware of. And this is not, I'd say probably 90% of the business owners out there that if they knew about it would be beneficial. And do we have another slide? No, we lost the program. Okay, well, we will adjust. We were at the end of it anyway. So guys, here's the thing. What does all this mean? All these hacks, these secrets, do they work for me? Do they not work for me? I don't know, but there is one way to find out. The way to find out is to kind of ask questions. And maybe you thought, well, you know what? I am getting killed on taxes and I want to reduce my taxes. I wonder if there's a way I haven't thought of before. By the way, just yesterday, I had a very lengthy conversation with a very successful CPA. And I was telling him, showing him additional ways to save money for his clients that he didn't necessarily know, because there's some hacks that are out there, right? That are additional. So if taxes is one of those things, great. If protecting yourself against illness is one of those things, great. Awesome. Thank you, Veronica. You're the best. I appreciate it. So think about it. There's something that's of value. So we'll go to the next slide. I think we're down to a couple. Okay, here we go. Cost-free options. One of the things that people they go, man, I don't want to learn about tools because it's going to cost me money. Do you know that most of the things I just mentioned back there, most of them can be done in such a way that it costs nothing? Right? But it can be costly if you don't know about them in certain circumstances. By the way, how do I set my kids up for success? How do the wealthy set their kids up for success? There's a program out there that we've been doing for years. It's called $1 Million Baby. You can actually take a child when they're born and set up a program that pays for their college, pays for down payment on their first home, pays for their child's retirement and leaves a significant amount of money to the following generation to create generational wealth by the simple interest of using compounding interest over time in a protected vehicle. And we call it $1 million baby program, right? This is one of the tools. And next slide, recap. All right, so basically, like we're talking about, is there something up there for me? I don't know, but there's a way to find out. You can reach out to the person that brought you here today and go, listen, I'd like to learn more, or maybe I just want to have a free evaluation. I want you to look at what I've got. Tell me if I'm good. By the way, if you've got something that's good and you want it evaluated, we'll look at it. And if it's good, we'll go, that's good. If it's good, but has one or two things you could do to enhance your benefits or save money, we'll mention that as well. And in some cases, we'll find things that people didn't even know were issues. You've heard the phrase, people don't know what they don't know. Some people think it's a silly phrase. Some people think it's a wise phrase. But I was having a conversation with a gentleman last week, and he said, I have a bunch of questions. And by the time he finished talking about those questions, what I showed him was that all these questions that he'd heard, because he did all this research on the internet, I said, let's talk about this example. And I showed him there were people who just didn't know the right questions to ask. So sometimes it's hard to get the right answer when you don't know the right question. One of the things we're really good at is asking the right questions. What's important to you? What do you value? What do you have in place? That sort of thing. And looking for the opportunities that, let's face it, times, generally speaking, are tough out there. Things are costing more money. The economy is a lot more unstable. And if you can find a way to give yourself a 10 or 20% advantage, that's one way to offset the costs of inflation. If costs of things go up 20%, but you find a way to make 20 or 30% more money using the things you currently have, then you can basically still get ahead. And that's the kind of the idea. And there's a lot of new stuff out there. And most people right now are using financial tools in 2022 that were designed in 1970. And hey, I got nothing against the 1970s. It was a great decade, right? But I'd rather drive a car that was designed in 2022 than I'd rather use a phone that was designed in 2022 than a phone that was designed in 1970. They both work, but they function very differently because times change, and so do products. And so at the end, we have a survey. One of the things that we ask is that you take time to fill out the survey. And then tonight, reach out to the person who invited you here today. They took time to reach out to you and kind of invite you to the webinar, and schedule a time to ask any questions you may have. Or if you don't have any questions, just tell them you don't have any questions, but at least communicate to the person who invited you today. And if you'd like some more information, that information, as it should be, is free. And we can sit down and talk to you and maybe share some things that might help. Anyway, that's about it. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening. Thank you for spending time with us, and here's the survey.